proving. Before anyone could react, the soldier lunged forward with terrifying speed, much faster than humanly possible. In a flash, proving. His sculler was on the ground, his leg shattered from one strike of the sword. The soldier didn't stop there. Proving. He stomped on the other leg, causing a sickening crack. Scholar's cries filled the air, proving and turning into a pitiful sob as his body lay broken. Sunny felt a chill run down his spine. What he had just witnessed was brutal. Proving. And the soldier's action seemed so out of place with his usual composed demeanor. It was horrifying. Proving. The soldier stood over Scholar's broken body, his face emotionless. He turned to Sunny and said, "Wait here." Then, proving. Without another word, he dragged the older slave away, disappearing behind a rock. After a few minutes, proving, and terrifying screams echoed in the distance. Sunny was left alone, shaken to his core by what had just happened. Proving. He couldn't believe how fast and cruelly Scholar had been dealt with. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. This is too much, he thought. He couldn't wrap his head around it. Eventually, the soldier returned as if nothing had happened. He was acting so normal, and that was what made it even worse. Sunny felt a knot in his stomach. The soldier casually went through Scholar's belongings, throwing away most of the useless items. He then slung the rucksack over his shoulder and turned to Sunny. "Let's go. We need to hurry." Sunny nodded silently, still unsure of how to react. The silence between them was heavy, and the feeling of loneliness crept up on him. Now, there were only two of them left, and it was a strange feeling. They continued walking along the stone path, which was easier than climbing the mountain wall. The journey felt less physically taxing, but Sunny's thoughts were still clouded with what had just occurred. He couldn't shake the feeling that the end of this nightmare was close, though he didn't know what it would look like. After some time, the soldier spoke again. "Don't feel guilty about what happened," he said without turning around. "It wasn't your fault. The decision was mine." Sunny stayed silent, unsure of how to respond. The soldier continued, "And don't worry about Scholar's sins. It's better you don't know. Just trust me when I say that killing him was the right thing to do." Sunny could feel the bitterness in his own thoughts. These people always tried to justify their actions, always trying to maintain an image of righteousness, no matter how terrible their actions were. He couldn't stand it. The soldier chuckled when Sunny didn't answer. "You don't like talking much, huh? Well, silence is golden, I suppose." The silence between them continued, each lost in their own thoughts. The sun began to set, casting the world in shades of red and orange. The air grew colder as the day ended, and they continued walking in the fading light. Eventually, the soldier found shelter behind some rocks. There was a narrow crevice in the mountain where they could hide from the wind. They explored the small space and found it to be a safe place to rest for the night. However, the soldier told Sunny that they would not make a fire. "The beast is too close," he explained. Sunny understood immediately. They were not in a position to risk drawing attention. They sat in the cold darkness, each lost in their own thoughts. The soldier seemed more distant than usual, and for the first time, he didn't seem to care for his sword, which was unusual for him. As night fell, the cave became pitch black. Sunny, however, could see just fine in the dark, while the soldier, who was blind in the dark, seemed lost in thought. His face appeared sorrowful, which struck Sunny as odd. After a while, the soldier spoke again. "You know, it's strange," he said quietly. "I can usually sense someone's presence in the dark, but with you, and it's like you're just one of the shadows." Sunny stayed silent, unsure how to answer. The soldier then smiled, though Sunny couldn't see it. "Are you asleep?" the soldier asked softly. The question echoed in the dark, and Sunny, feeling a strange closeness, decided to speak up. He wasn't sure why, but the darkness gave him courage. "Why? Are you waiting for me to fall asleep before you kill me? Or will you do it in the morning?" Sunny asked, his voice steady but filled with a hint of unease. The smile on Hiro's face quickly faded, and he lowered his head, looking ashamed. There was a long, heavy silence before he spoke, barely above a whisper. "Yes. I thought that if I did it while you were sleeping, and you wouldn't have to suffer, bah." Sunny, however, wore a bitter grin that Hiro couldn't see. He sighed deeply, leaning against the cave wall, still refusing to meet Sunny's eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me. This is my sin, and I will bear it. But please, if you can, try to understand. If things had been different, I would have fought the monster to let you escape. But my life, it's not just mine to control. I have a duty I must fulfill, and until that is done, I can't allow myself to die." Sunny's laughter was cold, full of scorn. "You people, look at you. You plan to kill me, yet you try to make it sound noble. How convenient. I can't stand hypocrites like you. Why don't you just be honest? Just say it! You want to kill me because it's easy. You want to kill me because you want to survive." Hiro closed his eyes, his face filled with regret. I'm sorry, I knew you wouldn't understand. Understand? What is there to understand? Sunny leaned forward, his anger clear in his voice. Tell me, why do I have to die? After a long pause, a hero finally looked up, though he couldn't see anything in the dark. He turned his face toward Sunny's voice. That man may have been a villain, but he was right. The blood on you, it's too strong. It'll attract the beast. And Sunny shook his head in disbelief. You could just let me go. We could part ways. And after that, whether the monster finds me or not, it's no longer your problem. Hero shook his head, his voice firm. Dying in that creature's jaws would be too cruel. It's better if I do it myself. You are my responsibility. Sunny leaned back against the wall, his bitterness replaced with a quiet sadness. You know, when I first came here, I was ready to die. Because in both this world and the next, no one cares whether I live or die. When I'm gone, no one will be sad. No one will even remember I existed. His eyes were distant, lost in thought. But after a moment, he smiled again, though it was dark. But then I changed my mind. Somewhere along the way, I decided I must survive, no matter what. Hero looked at him, puzzled. To live a life worth remembering. Sunny grinned, his eyes filled with a dark, almost dangerous gleam. No, to spite you all. The hero paused, taking in Sunny's words. He gave a slow nod, accepting the answer. Don't worry, Hero said, standing up. I'll make it quick. Sunny smirked, the tension in the air thick. You're confident. What makes you think you can kill me? Maybe I'll be the one to kill you. Hero's response was calm and certain. I doubt that. But just then, Hero staggered, falling to one knee. His face turned pale as he coughed up blood, his hands trembling as he tried to understand what was happening to him. Sunny smiled, his satisfaction evident. Finally, Hero stared at the blood on his hands, confused and disoriented. What kind of magic is this? Sunny sighed, shaking his head. I wish I could throw divine curses around, but no, I don't have any special abilities. Then, how? Sunny shrugged casually. After the tyrant attacked, you sent me to find water. While I was collecting flagons from the dead soldiers, I squeezed bloodbane juice into each one except my own. It wasn't enough to taste, but just enough to slowly kill anyone who drank it. Hero's face twisted in pain as he pieced the truth together. So that's why the others were in such bad shape. Sunny nodded. Shifty drank the most, so he was the first to go. Scholar wasn't far behind, but you finished him off before the poison could take him. As for you, I was starting to worry when you didn't show any signs of poisoning. Hero's face darkened as realization set in. I see, I understand. He paused, looking at Sunny with a new sense of surprise. Boot, you didn't know back then that we would turn on you. Sunny laughed softly. Oh, come on. It was obvious. And Shifty would kill for a pair of boots. Scholar was a wolf in sheep's clothing. People are selfish, cruel even in the best of times. How was I supposed to believe they wouldn't do something terrible when death was staring them in the face? Hero spat more blood and struggling to remain upright. And what about me? Sunny's face twisted into disdain. You're the worst of them all.